Our next teller is Julieta Garibay. She's a co-founder of United We Dream, which is a national network of immigrant youth. She's also the co-founder of University Leadership Initiative, which is one of the first immigrant youth-led networks in the state of Texas. She grew up here, but she's been in DC fighting for immigrant rights for a long time. She just finally came back to her hometown of Austin this last May. We're so glad she's here. And I said, what do you do for fun? She said, I paint flowers. It's a big hand for Julieta.
My name is Julieta Garibay. So I remember very clearly, it was around September, it was really hot, it was 1992, and my very courageous mother, who created her destiny when she migrated to the US with my sister and I, was driving somewhere in south of Austin. I was only 12, and all of a sudden, we see this young man running. He looked really scared. He had his shoe in his hand, and I don't think he could run any faster, but he was running really scared. And my mom was really shocked. And then soon after, there was a man in a green uniform. He was Lamira, an immigration agent, chasing him. And it was one of the first times that I heard that fear in my mom's voice. The same fear that she used to have when my father, who was an alcoholic, would come to our house in Mexico and scare the crap out of us. And all I knew, I was only 12, was that this was really bad. And so when my mom saw the agent running our way, she just said in the car, "Escóndanse, hide." And from that moment on, I knew that I was supposed to hide, especially from people who had a green uniform who were La Migra. And so I knew this was wrong. I knew it was not right for a mother who was so courageous, who had brought me up, to be so scared. I just knew it was wrong. But so I kept that to myself. And then I continued here in Austin, beautiful Austin. And I grew up and I went to high school. I was a totally college student, very nerdy. I was told you're college material. And I even got recruitment letters from Yale. But I always knew I was still undocumented. That it didn't matter what kind of letters, that they were trying to recruit me to go to college. It didn't matter because I was still undocumented. And so as a family, we decided that because I couldn't go to college, I needed to go back to Mexico, which I did. I was only 17. And a week after graduation, I went back to Mexico with one of my dear aunts, Tia Yola and Tia Willie. They took me like a family, but as soon as I arrived, I had a complete culture shock because everybody told me that I was too Americanized, that I didn't know how to speak Spanish, that I was not Mexican enough. And so at the age of 17, I had a complete culture shock because I was like, wait, I have been told my entire life in the US, go back to your country. And I had just done that because I supposedly didn't belong in the US. And now I was back in Mexico and I was being told I was not Mexican enough. So can you imagine 17-year-old trying to understand soy de aquí o soy de allá, and being told I'm not from here and then I'm not from there. And so it was a year later that I chose to come back to Austin because this was my home, because my courageous mother was still here in Austin. And I came back here and I tried to continue my life, very undocumented and very afraid, and very ashamed of being an immigrant. And so I chose to come back because this was my home. But it was around 2005 that I'm supposed to graduate with my bachelor's from UT Austin, which was my dream school my entire life. that I was like, well, I'm still undocumented. I might be graduating with a nursing degree, but I still cannot practice my profession. And so I got to hear about this DREAM Act. Have any of you heard about this DREAM Act? I see some hearts shaking. It's supposed to fix your status, only for immigrant youth. And so I'm like, well, let's do this DREAM Act thing. Let's get petitions, let's make sure people know what it is. And so I started organizing without really knowing. And although the main reason why I got started was because I wanted to practice nursing. That was my dream. I realized that that didn't really matter. What mattered was people like my dear friend Evelyn from Florida, who the last time she told her mother was as she was being detained and soon after deported for being undocumented, for driving without a license in Florida. And so it's been a journey of almost 12 years of really learning and recognizing that it's not about a degree. It's not about being able to go to college or being able to practice my profession. It's about really getting people to know and understand that we are human beings, that we should be treated with dignity and respect. And so it is many years later that although the University Leadership Initiative, which is the organization that I co-founded, because I wanted a space for immigrant youth to have where they felt free, where they felt welcome, and where, ironically, our tagline was, I am bilingual, I am professional, I am ready to work, pass the DREAM Act. It is now years later that I recognize that it doesn't matter if you're bilingual. It doesn't matter if you're a professional. What matters is that we're human beings. And so that's why I continue to do this work. I am one of the co-founders of United We Dream, which is the largest network of immigrant youth that say every day we are now, many years later, undocumented and unafraid. And so, as Mark shared, I came back to Texas. Actually, let me backtrack a little because there is one piece of my story that I have to share. Somewhere along the lines, I fell in love, like any 20-year-old girl. And I was very excited, and I wanted to be a mom and a wife and a nurse in a white picket fence with a puppy. I think some of you can relate. But so I got married, very happy with a beautiful white dress where our entire family came and celebrated. But it was less than a year later that I realized that my husband, who I loved the most, was abusive. And so he actually kicked me out of my home. And I can still remember him saying, I can throw your stuff out the window or out the door, and you cannot call the cops. And I was already involved in the movement, so I knew my rights. I knew I could remain silent. I knew cops didn't have to arrest me. I knew I could ask for my attorney. I knew everything. But still, this man was able to question who I was, to question my dignity. And so it's been through that process that I was actually able later on to apply for what is called VAWA, which is Violence Against Women Act, which is a law that allows people who have been domestically abused to apply for papers. But I think that was one of the moments that I realized that there is something wrong, completely wrong with this system. When someone needs to show there is enough abuse in order to get papers. Do you agree with that? Okay. And so I share this because I think it's important for people to understand when people think go back to your country or apply the right way. I think it's important to understand that there is no way to apply. It's important to understand that the system, actually you need to show there's enough abuse in order to get a stamp in your passport that says you're now allowed in this country. But so that has been part of my journey. About 2 weeks ago, I texted my mom and my sister very excitedly because I got to apply for my citizenship. And it's a 7-month process to wait, but to me it was a bittersweet moment because it's very exciting to apply for citizenship of the country that you have called home, but it's also very sweet to know there's such a long process of almost 25 years in order to actually be recognized as a citizen in this country. I haven't been accepted yet, but what I do know is that whenever I'm able to apply to get my citizenship, I sure as hell will vote to make sure that my people get recognized and my people get to feel free and feel justice in this country. But I also wanted to really share what I do with United We Dream. And so I was talking to Mark and I was sharing with him. So many of you maybe have seen the legislature. It was really crazy. It was, I think, one of the main things that where United We Dream and our affiliates from Texas focused on was SB4. Have you all heard about SB4? Yes. Okay. And so our affiliates threw down. There were so many amazing organizations like Grassroots Leadership, like Workers Defense, like the University Leadership Initiative, and many others who showed up at the Capitol, testified and said, this bill is wrong. It is wrong to racially profile people. There were hundreds. They showed up by hundreds. And I can still remember talking to many of our leaders and saying, we showed up, like there were 600 or 700 people saying, no, you shouldn't pass this bill. And they still passed it. And so in May, I know the bill is about to pass. I usually would call my mom from DC, and I would call her every Sunday. And one of the Sundays I called her, and she tells me, Julie, se va a poner feo, ¿verdad? It's gonna get bad. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And I told her, but we're gonna fight back, man. We're gonna fight back. And so it was soon after that I just hung up and I was like, I have to go to Austin. That's where my mom and my sister are. That's where our people need me, that maybe I can put a tiny little grain of salt to help fight against this bill. And so I decided to show up here in Austin, my beloved town where I grew up. And I'm thinking, it's only gonna be 2 or 3 weeks, maybe just help support, because I know a lot of people are burned out. It's been a horrible ledge session. But while I was here, I could just tell, I told my heart that I couldn't go back to DC. I needed to be here, where it's at, where people are feeling so dehumanized. And so as soon as after I arrived here in Austin, I meet up with some of our amazing ULIers, which are immigrant youth out of UT Austin, and they tell me, Juli, it was horrible to go to the ledge session. It was dehumanizing and disempowering to show up, to tell our truths, and see all these legislatures texting, laughing, and not even caring about us. And so I felt really mad. Would you be mad? Yes. I felt mad. I was like, this is wrong. And so we start planning and thinking, okay, what can we do to make sure that legislators understand that they cannot laugh at us, that they cannot be texting, that this, even if you're undocumented or undocumented, is still our town. So we start planning, and we think, why did we take over the Capitol? And so, how many of you were at May 29th at the Capitol? I see some hands. Okay. So it was one of the most beautiful moments because it was immigrant youth and allies that showed up and said, this is our capital too. And we chanted, hey, hey, ho, ho, SB4 has got to go. And we said, we're here to stay, because that is what I believe in my heart. When immigrant communities and families choose to come across the border because they're looking for survival sometimes, they come here because they hope to find something better. They don't come here because they have anything else to do for the weekend. They come here because they need to survive. And what I hope my job is to not only help them survive, but to help them thrive in the beautiful state of Texas. And so many people sometimes ask, why do you keep on doing this? Technically you have papers. Why should you care? So it's the last part of my story because I do this work because as I was sharing, I met up with the ULIers and they felt disempowered. So I was talking to Junwen, who's one of our amazing kick-ass leaders here in Texas. And she was like, Juli, it was horrible, like it was disempowering. I didn't want to go to the ledge session anymore. And so I was like, okay, and so we started planning, let's take over the Capitol. And so I can still remember as soon as we walked out of the Capitol that we had taken over with beautiful red shirts, chanting and chanting. I see her right outside in the south steps of the Capitol. And she looks 5 inches taller. And she's like, we took over Juli, it was our Capitol. And I could feel how she was proud, how she was empowered, and how she knew it was about her leadership, it was about how she had stood up when they didn't want to listen. And so that's why I do this work. Because I know even if it's 1 or 2 people that will come out of our actions or our meetings or our events, standing 5 inches taller and say, I am undocumented, unafraid, and unapologetic, I did my job right. So that is why I do my job. That's why I believe that it is the people power that will make changes. And so if you're out here, you might be on that line and you're wondering, what do I do? There's 2 things that you can do. Number 1, go out and vote. There's a lot of multiple places where you can vote at the local level, at the federal level, but you need to go out and vote and make sure that people understand that racism is not welcome in Texas. And number 2, you can join the movement. So if you want to join United We Dream, you're more than welcome. We're kind of fun, we're kind of cool. But we're people that believe in the people power. People that believe that if you stand up, if you demand, you get something, because it is the last one. I was gonna end, but it's the last one. Do you know what DACA is? Okay, good. So DACA was a program that we had lost the Dream Act vote. The Dream Act vote that people said you could get a papers in there. They had told us you could fight for it, and then 5 senators failed us, including Cornyn and Hutchison here in Texas. And so what Immigrant Youth said, okay, we lost at the federal level. Everybody told us, no, you cannot win anything, don't even think about it. Immigrant Youth said, you know what, we're gonna demand on Obama to do something. The world told us, no, it's like, it's a bad year, you shouldn't say anything, he can't do anything. And Obama said, I can't do anything. Immigrant Youth, United We Dream, and many others said, no, you can do something. You can provide relief for immigrant youth who have been here. And so we fought and we won DACA. So that was a campaign won by the people. And that's why I believe in our power. And then when our immigrant youth came and said, you know what, it's great that I have a work permit, but now they're deporting my mom and my dad, we said, let's fight for something else. And we fought for DACA. And although it got stuck in the court, I know that it is the people power that make it happen. And so I hope that you'll take that into your hearts. That remember that you might think, well, I'm only one person, what am I gonna do? Know that it is your courage and your heart that defines us, and it is not SB4 or the courts or DAPA or DACA. It is our courage, our heart, our hambre de justicia, hunger for justice that makes us. So yeah, yo soy Julieta Garibay, de aquí y de allá, le parezca lo que le parezca. I am Julieta Garibay. I am from here, I am from there, regardless of who approves of it. So thank you.